Look, I didn't quit the game this time. We're back.
That would have I maybe could have snuck in a all-time team on you.
Doesn't matter, you're winning anyway. I don't know why I struggle with this game so much. I just have to commit some practice. Or sneak all-time teams. Come on, LeBron, you gotta drain those things. There we
I
go.
would have I would have picked it up with the short shorts. Uh, and and
The
I
proper length shorts.
the thing about the Lakers unis, right, is it, they're such a classic uni. Like their throwbacks are demonstrably better than their current uniform setup.
Okay, this purple black thing is pretty cool, and you can't, and also you can't hate on. I think some of my favorite throwbacks actually. Phoenix had some amazing throwback unis back in the '90s, but I like this purple and black thing and kind of this new age Lakers where they must have just like LeBron must have sat down and be like, "This is what I want us to wear," and they went, "Okay, whatever you say,"
All right, Bron.
and put
So,
Kobe on it.
one of the things that LeBron didn't do, he's done a lot. One of the things LeBron didn't do is go to college. But there is a college tournament coming up, Rutledge.
There is a college tournament coming up.
You
It
like my
is
segue?
that was a man. That was so much of a segue. I almost need to have a helmet to be safe because people wear helmets in segways. Good. So, college basketball tournaments coming up. We're very kind of talking about some headlines and everything going down. I had picked that Wisconsin's going to go in. They look like they're making their way in. Connor, who is your they're going to make it in player team?
I was on the Duke bandwagon last week. I thought they had it going on, and
How is that
man, I
going
gotta
on?
I gotta hold that L because they lost to Louisville. They're running out of time, running out of games, and they don't have a ton of good players. So, the just the literal jersey cannot make Duke be a tournament team.
Duke is really going to have to do some work. They have coming up Georgia Tech and North Carolina on their schedule, who are all fighting for tournament bids. And Georgia Tech is very good, and North Carolina and Roy Williams are very much starting to figure it out. So Duke, they're kind of on the bubble. To go in a different direction, I want to just mention something that Steven commented on. I know we're doing a segment. Have you ever noticed the mascot for Phoenix is a gorilla? I don't understand that.
That's like the mascot for the Orlando Magic. Stuff the Magic Dragon. I guess
Yes.
Magic, but I
He
mean
does he does portray magic out of his nose.
that he does. But yeah, the gorilla mascot, and he's like one of the most athletic and acrobatic mascots. He's got quite a dunk collection.
That is true. I will say I do miss the days when I used to go to Vancouver Grizzlies games as a kid and seeing, I'm pretty sure his name was like the Grizz, and seeing him run around and he wore a cape and he had a mask like a superhero. He was pretty. Look, there's the mascot again. But the Grizz was pretty majestic.
Who was the Vancouver Grizzlies like super fan like pseudo mascot?
Like who was their person that was just there? It
Yes,
was
like
kind of
like the Barrel Man in Denver.
we didn't we weren't around enough to have a super fan. It was just people that were kind of into it. Anyone in Vancouver that showed up for it. Vancouver games, if I remember, was very much like a just down home Pacific Northwest affair, kind of like the vibe you get if you watch. You can only go back to now Portland because that's of the three Pacific Northwest teams in the '90s. All that's left are the Portland Trailblazers. In my opinion, they're third place. So Vancouver had a really cool identity. They just had horrible front office management that just didn't want to take care of them, which is why they're the Memphis Grizzlies because they couldn't even rebrand it to the Memphis Fried Banana Sandwiches.
The Memphis Ribs.
The Memphis Hound Dogs. Get
Oh,
it?
that'd have
Because
been good.
Graceland's in Memphis.
Cause Graceland. I would have been down for
Anyways,
that for sure. Anyways, back to
college
college
basketball.
basketball and back to 3 pointers. Come on now. Uh,
Baylor.
Baylor, man, they blew their perfect season opportunity,
They did. They had a big loss against Kansas.
and they
And
blamed it on COVID. Well, they didn't blame it on COVID. They blamed it on like, not playing for a while due to COVID.
so I take with that I'm going to go with that this wasn't just because they're losing to Kansas. College sports, especially, is all about momentum. And Baylor showed some signs of weakness or some signs of humanity when they played a very bad Iowa State. How bad is Iowa State, Rutledge? A 2-18, 0 wins in the Big 12 Iowa State. And they had just enough good players make just enough good plays to where they totally outdid Iowa State by just enough. So I think Baylor is cooling down at the wrong time, and we've seen a lot, especially this year in college basketball, with like the take we had last week on how the good teams are bad. That in college sports, they're not like professional sports. When their world and their routine gets disrupted, they get disrupted. So I'm saying that Baylor they got to tighten up going into the Big 12 tournament, or else there's some bad things coming.
Yeah, I think to, you know, part of me kind of says, all right, playing in games and just getting out of that rhythm, to your point, is definitely, that's a tough thing to work through for sure. But it's like, come on, man, you can't scrimmage, you can't do. There's things that you can do, even within, um, even within the course of the season to stay sharp. So I think that is kind of a lame excuse, but it was an excuse nevertheless. The one thing to think about with college basketball teams is that some of those top teams get so hot, or not hot, but it's like they have to almost lose to take some of the pressure off of them. So I think that in some ways, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, but we'll get to our Baylor takes, here shortly. But really, there's only now one team left that's undefeated, and that's Gonzaga.
It's
Where even is Gonzaga?
Are you talking about spiritually, metaphorically, literally?
All of it.
I mean, Gonzaga, as you know, is in the state of Washington, up in the city of Spokane. So out in the world, coming from the Pacific Northwest, small basketball-based school. But they're undefeated. They're leading the way. That's the one beauty thing of college basketball is that you can have a small team like a Gonzaga, a Wichita State, someone that you would never think of, sort of take the way and make big impacts. Your big name colleges rarely, even in basketball, really are dominant in two sports. So
Yep.
uh, Gonzaga
But
could be a big
one of the
factor in the
things,
tournament.
that I think, you're in Spokane, you're in Western Washington, you're on the other side of the state from Seattle. Mark Few has been definitely able to recruit, and we saw an article that highlighted, the author of this article highlighted the top 100, and ended up being 118 players in college basketball, really as it relates to the NBA draft coming up. And we sure as heck like big time players in big time games. Rutledge, any thoughts about the impact that some of these big time players are going to have here in the NCAA tournament?
Someone, of course, everyone is watching, Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State, especially this week when Oklahoma State plays Baylor. But he's the big name that sort of flashes up there, and that even if Oklahoma State, which is ranked 17th, they make a decent tournament run, I have someone else that really needs to be watched, and that is, I'm sure you've seen him play, Connor, being a Florida State fan, but that's Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is leading the entire ACC in points, and he leads his team as assists. I believe they have a big chance to make a big run in the ACC tournament and possibly go in the big dance, where Florida State historically has not been a strong basketball performance. So those are some names that I'm staring at going forward. I think Scotty Barnes is going to have more of a team impact than Cade Cunningham. I definitely think in future episodes of Friend Stream Sports, you and I are going to be playing as Cade Cunningham versus maybe Zion Williams, who we both love as a basketball player. But those are who I have as big names coming into March
Yeah,
Madness.
I think one of the things that we always one of the big pieces that I did, as opposed to just looking at the names, I looked at which teams have the most highly ranked players, which teams have the best players, and there was really three teams that had four players on that list. You had Gonzaga, you had Baylor, and you had Tennessee. I don't know what happened in Tennessee. they've got talent as it relates to NBA players, and they have not put it together this season. But you're 2 for 3 there um, as it relates to you know the those big time teams doing big time things. I think one team that is having a really good season that might get knocked out early is Houston. But the main reason being they have one player there in that top 118. So as much as we're a little bit down on Baylor, I'm still not really all that down on Baylor.
No, it'll be definitely interesting to see as we come through. As we have big plans for when Connor and I. Now the gorilla has stilts. We have big plans when Connor and I talk about March Madness. We're going to do a huge pick show that is in the works. So we're getting ready to that tournament. Selection Sunday is coming up very soon. But
It'll be
there's
very
some.
scientific.
It will be very real friends, real sports, hot and fresh, like I like my underwear.